Hey legends, welcome to Buy, Hold and Sell for round 12 as we start going into the buy round. So obviously round 12 is the week before the first major buy round. We've got our Newcastle Knights guys out this week. Trades are starting to become an absolute premium. So what I want you to be thinking is every time you make a trade is ask yourself this question. Are these players going to help me get through all of the major buy rounds? Do I really need to make this change? Do I really need to make this trade? And is the player that we're bringing in going to make a significant and positive difference to my team? So if those questions are answered and you're comfortable with the answer, then go ahead and do it. So with all of that in mind, let's get into it. All right, so like we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, just going through what's happening in the fantasy market, having a look at what a lot of players are doing at this particular point in time, because my buy, hold, sell list doesn't neatly kind of match up with this who's hot and who's not list. So we'll go through and talk about some of the differences. So I'll talk about KO Weeks, Tyron Wishart, Max King. I don't have Jack Cole as a buy. I think realistically he'll only have it for a few more weeks and then we'll be out of the team again. So for me, it's a bit of a luxury trade and I haven't included him. Now I don't have Jermaine Hopgood as a buy, and the reason for that is I think he will be in State of Origin. And for me, if you're playing overall, I just don't think at this point in time Jermaine Hopgood is a smart decision. He's an awesome player, absolutely. But if he's in that State of Origin team, then he's going to miss a substantial chunk of weeks and, could even get injured, who knows. But for now, Jermaine Hopgood is definitely a guy I'm keen on, but not right now. Maybe after State of Origin information comes out next Monday or Tuesday. Similar sort of story with Api Coruscant. Kula, we spoke about last week as a buy. You could probably add him this week as well. The Hammer is not on our list this week. Again, State of Origin. Jacob Laban, I can kind of see why people are putting him on their buy list. He's not on mine, but he may be a good option as well. But keep in mind, he doesn't play round 13. Reed Marnie is somebody that we spoke about last week. He's not in this week's list, but could still be a great option if you're looking to trade out Harry Grant maybe next week. And that'd obviously be similar to someone like a Reece Robson as well. Blaze Talangi, he is not on our list. And I think realistically, look, he's doing a great job. He's making a truckload of cash, but I think if you don't already have him, he's probably not an awesome buy given Clint Gutherson will come back and slot straight into that fullback position, and then what happens to Blaze, who knows? So Blaze isn't on our list this week. Helam Lukey is, and we'll talk about him. Ruben Garrick, I don't have him. Again, he doesn't cover round 13. Dom Young, I reckon he was an awesome buy last week and the week before, obviously. And it really comes down to what you need. I know I have a fair few Roosters players, a few Raiders players, and a couple of Dolphins. And the big watch out, if you're going to go after a lot of these guys, is round 14. Because obviously, we're going to have to get a full 17 on the park. And with that buy round, we need to watch how many of our reserves are actually going to be available on the bench. So that's one to just keep an eye on. For me, it's a bit of a luxury trade I don't need to make. He was on our buy list last week, but not on this week's buy list. And Latrell Mitchell, he is an interesting option. I guess the big unknown for me with Latrell is, will he make State of Origin? And I reckon with the injury toll in the New South Wales team at the moment, the odds of someone like Latrell Mitchell making that team are probably improving day by day. And if he comes out and puts on a really good performance this weekend, then I could almost guarantee that Latrell Mitchell will be in the New South Wales team. Now, moving over to the Who's Not list, Cameron Munster, yes, he definitely needs to be sold. Wade Egan, I'm probably a little bit more cautious on. I reckon he's probably a hold. Look, he's out this week. They don't play round 13. He will be back in round 14, or at least I hope so. I can't see why he wouldn't be. But if you've got some news on Wade Egan that I don't know, put it in the comments down below. Jolliffe, absolutely a sell. I'm hearing he's out now, definitely for 12 weeks, maybe even longer. Salmon, I don't know why people are selling him. I know he was out last week, but he is going to be a great hold into round 13. He's got the mid-edge duel. He's definitely a hold from my point of view. Fini Fuiaki, again, he's probably a hold. If you've still got him at this point, you might as well hold him for 1 or 2 more weeks. He will play round 13. Same as Tohu Harris, he'll play round 13. Joey Chan, I think, is definitely a sell. Taylor May, absolutely a sell. Chevy Stewart, yes, I agree, a sell. Sean Johnson, I'm 50-50 on Sean Johnson, and the reason is he will be back for round 14. And it'll probably be a target round 14, round 15 as a buy, so a bit of a watch out there. Bradman Best, I'm comfortable with him as a sell. Xavier Willison, I'd say no. He's not going to play round 13, but he will get some minutes over the State of Origin period, that's for sure. So I'm probably going to say no for him as a sell. Kai Pierce-Paul, I don't think he's a sell. I think he's absolutely a hold. Katoni Staggs, look, it really depends on the injury itself. Broken ribs or certainly sore ribs can take a long time to heal, so I'm kind of 50-50. He's not going to play State of Origin now, so he may sort of slot back into that Broncos team in round 14. And Reece Walsh, I don't think he's a sell this week, but certainly next week he could be a sell. So I'm just going to say no for this week, and we'll have a look at him again next week. Alrighty, so on to the buys, and first up we have KO Weeks. Now what we love about KO Weeks is these amazing scores that he's been pumping out, you know, especially last weekend at Magic round 64 was magnificent. He's got the minus 13 break even, which is sensational, and he's still relatively cheap at just over the 400k mark. Now, some of the things that we also like is he does play round 13, but be conscious he will be out round 14. That, unfortunately for me, means that I will probably have to sell Ethan Strange come round 14. But the good news is with KO Weeks, he backs up and hopefully will play round 16. Now, one of the things to also note about KO Weeks is he is likely to bank at least an additional $100,000, which could be very handy around that round 16, 17 mark when we're looking to make a few additional changes to get our team set up for the run home. So KO Weeks, I don't think it's too late. I still think he's a buy. He was a better buy last week, but is definitely still a decent buy this week, especially if he's going to continue to pump out those really, really good scores. Isaac Tungo, available in centre. Now that's been a bit of an up and down kind of position this year. He does have a relatively high break even of 53. And he's priced at 565k, so not cheap, but is starting to deliver some hopefully consistently good scores. He got the 55 on the weekend. He's had a 51 also in the last 5, and he's coming off 2 really low ones of 19 and 14. So I reckon this is probably as cheap as he's going to be. He does play round 13 and 14. I think the big question mark for me is, given the injury issues that we've seen in the New South Wales team, there's probably a chance that he could even make that team as well. So you probably don't need to rush out and get him this week, but definitely somebody to keep on your radar if he's not selected for the New South Wales State of Origin team. Okay, a guy I'm looking at this week, Max King, available in the middle. Now, there's not a whole lot of really decent options in the mids, especially considering that the big boppers, the guys that we actually want, chances are most of them play State of Origin or aren't available in round 13. So Maxi King really ticks that box for us and could be a great replacement option for someone like a Jermaine Jolliffe. He's currently got a 39 break even, 659k, so again, not cheap, and a 0.88 ppm. Look, he could even be a bit of a pod, only 2.28% owned. But looking at his last 5 rounds, we love this 57, we love this 52, and coming off a really decent one on the weekend with 65. We know the Dogs have the best buy coverage. He will be available in round 13, 14, and 16. He won't play round 19, but I think is somebody that can get a job done for us with some consistent points over the next, 6-7 weeks. which is exactly what we need. Let's keep moving. Next up, Tyron Wishart. He's got that dual half wing fullback flexibility, only 382k with a 1 break even and a zero point 0.5 ppm. He's owned by just over 15% of fantasy players and has a really mixed bag of scores over the last 5 rounds. Some really dodgy ones with this 10 and this 2, but we've seen over the last couple of weeks what he can deliver. Now, he is going to be the guy who obviously replaced Jerome Hughes, but will be replacing Cam Munster. And with Jonah Pezzett out for a while, he is absolutely the guy that steps up and just delivers when he gets the opportunity to get those decent minutes. So for me, he could be a great option if you're looking for a half. He's not someone that I need right now, and I think KO Weeks is probably the better of the two. But if you need a half/wing fullback, then you can't go too far wrong with Tyron Wishart. Now, he doesn't play round 13, but he will play 14 and 16. So it really comes down to what you need over that period of time. Next up, Ryan Madison. So slightly controversial one, mostly because obviously Brad Arthur was punted from the Eels, and a new coach in Trent Barrett means that he may look to shuffle things around from a minutes point of view in the Eels team. And I reckon over the State of Origin periods, someone like Ryan Madison could benefit with hopefully more minutes on the park. Now, what we do love about Ryan Madison, obviously the mid-edge dual flexibility, 531k with a 31 break even and an awesome 0.73 ppm. Currently owned by just over 3% of players. And again, a mixed bag of scores. So didn't play Magic Round, but you can see he's got a high of 58 in the last 5 rounds and also a low of 13. But I think it'll come down to minutes. If Madison can get some decent and consistent minutes in the middle, or maybe even at lock during that time that I reckon Hopgood will be out in the State of Origin team, then I think he could go quite well. But it really depends on what's happening with Trent Barrett and his forward rotation and minutes, and what's going to happen with potentially Hopgood over this Origin period as well. So something to keep an eye on. And you don't necessarily need to rush out and pick Madison up, but one to be aware of. Okay, so next up we have Helam Lukey, available at the edge. 441k, which is an absolute bargain for Lukey. 27 break even and a 0.78 ppm, and only owned by 2.4% of fantasy players. He's coming off injury, he's coming off a mixed bag of scores, but what we do know about Lukey is he does have that amazingly high ceiling, but he's also prone to injury. So he does come with a fairly high degree of risk, even if the Cowboys have a great run of fixtures over the next few weeks. So a little bit risky, but a fantastic player when he's fit and healthy and can pump out some serious minutes. Now with the Origin boys like Jeremiah Nanai, Ruben Cotter, we're assuming Tommy Dearden as well are all out, then players like Lukey are absolutely likely to stand up and hopefully deliver for the Cowboys. So I reckon he's a buy, but he does come with risk. Now he will play round 13 and round 14. So the coverage is there. The value is there. We just hope that he can stay fit and healthy. Let's keep moving. Okay, so next up, I've got Jack Whiten on the buy list. He is available center and half and only 408k. And probably falling at that price point. But he does currently have a 35 break even, and in the last 5 rounds hasn't been able to even crack that. He's got a 0.51 ppm and owned by just over 2% of players. So again, pod territory. He's coming off 18, 26, 29, 16, and 34. But he is moving into the 5/8 position, and tracking his career progress at 5/8, he averages 45.9. So there could be a bit of value in 5/8 for Jack Whiten, and that's a hell of a lot better than his 2024 average of only 30.3. So he could be someone that you sit back and see how he goes in round 12. He's out on the buy in round 13, and if it's looking like he's the goods, then jump in round 14. So one to watch for sure. Next up, a couple of newbies, a couple of cheapies in Josiah Pulu. He's available in the mid, so obviously coming into the Titans to replace Jolliffe. 283k, 17 break even, and a 0.72 ppm, which I really, really like. Already a few people jumping on board at 5.72% ownership, and he does have scores of 22, 16, 24, 29, and 18. I think the big thing, and I've got it there, you can sit back and watch him this week. He's not going to rise too much in value, but if he's looking the goods and perhaps can pump out a decent score, then he might be somebody to consider in round 14, because as it says there, he doesn't play round 13. Now, with all these cheapies, these temporary guys, I guess you could call them, it is a case of buyer beware, because they could be just as easily out of the team the week after if you're not careful. And with trades being at such a luxury at this point, just be careful with someone like a Josiah Pulu. Similar sort of story here with Justin Matamua, so available on the edge. I think he's actually going to be playing lock for the Tigers this weekend. Only 257k with a 13 break even. He does have a pretty decent 0.68 ppm and owned by just over 1% of fantasy players. His highlight, and there aren't many, is that he was able to score a 26 in 2024 and a 31 in 43 minutes in 2023. Now, like Pulu at the Titans, you can afford to watch him this week. He won't be playing round 13 and could be a potential buy from round 14. The Tigers have an amazing draw after round 13. But the big watch out with Matamua here is the Tigers bench is stacked with players that have been playing in that lock position, and he, like Pulu, could just as easily be out of that team in the weeks to come. So a bit of a watch out with him. Onto the holds, and we won't dwell too much on these guys, but Trey Fuller, I reckon you should hold at least until round 13. It's only next weekend. With this average of scores, 57, 68, 44, and 61, you could almost bank in a greater than 50 for just holding him one more week. But after that, I reckon he is a sell in round 14. So keep that in mind. The real benefit of Trey Fuller is he's made us a whole bunch of cash. I think we get the luxury of having him play in round 13, and then we can move him on in round 14. So that's my assessment of Trey Fuller. Brendan Piakura. Now, he is probably more of a sell than he is a hold. He started the season at 399k and has lost us a bit of coin. He scored a try on the weekend and still only managed 36. He realistically isn't going to be a long-term keeper. He won't play round 13, does play round 14. An incredibly frustrating player to be holding. And you can see there over 22% of fantasy players do hold him. But at this point, unless you're confident that you can jump into another player who's going to be better than a Brendan Piakura, I still think he is a hold. Having said that, I wouldn't begrudge or blame anyone for moving on from a Brendan Piakura. Okay, Ethan Strange. I see a lot of people wanting to sell Ethan Strange, which I can understand if you're chasing points or upgrading into a gun. But if you're not, then really look to hold for that round 13 buy round. I reckon he's pretty much peaked in price, but that's really not why we're looking to hold on for Ethan Strange. It's more about this coverage. So he does play round 13. He's out in round 14, gives us 16, then out in 19. Now for me, I'll be holding for 13 and then giving him the punt. He does have some decent scores. 45 is a decent score. 50 is a great score. And then a little bit of mud in the middle. For me, he's done his job. He's made us some money, but I reckon he's peaked and he's just about ready to move on from. So for me, hold him this week, hold him next week, and then punt him in round 14. Nat Butcher, the forward rotations of Trent Robinson at the Roosters is absolutely doing my head in. This guy is coming off 3 amazing scores. Look at that, 50, 55, 57, a 73. Absolutely amazing. Doing a pretty fantastic job. I'm hoping he's just being rested this week, because I honestly can't think of any other reason he would be out of this Roosters team. If someone out there does know, put it in the comment section down below. But Matt Butcher, we love his mid-edge duel. He's very expensive at 721, and that's probably a reason you'd consider selling him if he was out of favour at the Roosters. But to be honest, I just haven't heard anything, so I don't fully understand why he has been punted. But for me, Nat Butcher at this point, a hold. Wade Egan, he's out with the HIA this week. The Warriors have the bye next week. And then I'm thinking he's back in round 14 and continues to do a pretty decent job. Not amazing scores, obviously 49, 43, his highlights in the last 5 games. 9 is pretty crap, 28 is pretty crap. He's expensive and has this high break even, so I can understand why people are wanting to sell him and move on. And if you do, the only players I'd be looking to move him on to are perhaps a Reed Marnie, maybe a Jeremy Marshall-King, maybe a Damien Cook, and maybe a Reece Robson if he doesn't make State of Origin. But for me, trading out Wade Egan is a little bit of a luxury unless you absolutely need to. Same sort of story with Tohu Harris. He's out this week. I think he's got a broken finger or a fractured finger, something like that. He gets the bye next week, which is exactly what someone like a Tohu Harris needs, and then should be a continuation of his awesome form. 69, 62, 55, 47, and a bit of a lower one here with this 38. But Tohu Harris is a gun. He's a player that I think a lot of people will want in their teams for the run home. For me, where possible, you don't trade guns. He is amazing and will no doubt come in and continue to do an awesome job. Onto the sells, and these guys are pretty self-explanatory. Cameron Munster, he's done his groin again. He's out for probably at least 12 weeks. Connor Watson, we're looking at about 3 weeks for Connor Watson. He's done his throat, and that could just be precautionary for him. He may be fine. He may come back early. It could be longer, but I think this bye period makes it a little bit tough to hold him, and I think he's got to go. Matt Lodge, he's done his bicep. He's looking like he's going to be out for about 12 weeks as well. Jamin Jolliffe, well, I brought him in last week, so unfortunately it's my fault, but he is also likely to be out for 12 weeks. Tony Staggs, he's got a couple of either fractured or broken ribs, and we know they're hard to come back from. He's likely to be out for at least 2 weeks. Obviously, he's not going to make State of Origin. But I just think for a player who plays as hard as Tony Staggs does, that even when he comes back, he could be a little bit off his game until those ribs fully heal. For me, he's a sell. And Taylor May, what more can I say? He is a sell. He's out indefinitely. Obviously having a very disappointing season in 2024. And it looks like that is absolutely set to continue with some of his off-field drama as well. So there you go. For me, he is definitely a sell. So there you go, guys. Look, that is buy, hold, and sell for round 12. Good luck with your tipping. Good luck with your fantasy or your Supercoach teams. Fingers crossed we can get through a week with no carnage going into State of Origin, where all of our players stay fit and healthy, and hopefully producing some massive fantasy scores for you this week. Anyway, guys, look, if you've liked today's video, you know what to do. Smash that like button for me. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, guys, get involved in the conversation via the comment section down below. And I'll see you all in the next video.